This is normally, like, the beginning of March is not necessarily a big slowdown time for me.
Yeah.
But it is usually a little bit slower.
Right.
Then we'll get a slight kind of an April uptick for the exact same thing that you were saying, like tax returns and stuff.
Yep.
Back when we carried statues and a little bit more expensive items, that's when we would, that time of year is always when we sold the most. Like,
oh man.
statues, which back then was a you know, $200, $300, sometimes $400 ticket item, but statues have just gotten so expensive that
Yeah.
that's why we don't even carry them anymore, because the average statue, like even mass market side, is $1,000 is a cheap statue.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just not my market here. So
Yeah. Not who you're aiming for, and
well, when they were, you know, like some of the ones that we still kind of have leftovers when they were still doing DC Direct, and there was still a contract with Diamond for the Marvel side. You get a $50 one, a $60 one, and then if you saw a nice little fancy 12, 14, 16-inch one, it might be about $350. And you have to make that choice of like, well, it's really pretty, it'll probably be here maybe for a little while, but it'll sell. And they always did.
yeah.
And yeah, that was usually tax return season is when those would start to trickle out every year.
Yeah. Well,
But it's been several years since that shift happened. I mean, pandemic was a big one too.
kind of killed the industry a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it's when it shuffled into the really high end. So Sideshow is one of the kind of producers and distributors of a lot of Japanese imports, and then they create their own, and they make a really nice product, and their stuff is really pretty, but it was just climbing in price gradually. And then supply chain stuff made those, like it did every industry, just made those explode, and they never came back down.
Dang.
But it's such a specialty market, and they take up so much room, and people that were starting to dedicate their wallets to that were now like not necessarily buying a statue every now and then with their comic collection or their book collection. It became more like, yeah, I guess I'm a statue person now.
Yeah, you kind of just fall into that niche and dig
big,
a hole.
Well, those current big elaborate ones too. I mean, they're I've seen people like who have them in their homes or who kind of bought into them early on. They're very elaborate. They take up a lot of room though. So even if you have the budget for it, you can only, it's like being a big poster fan. You only have so much wall space. So it's nice to have like all these pretty posters and all these really cool like wall pieces, but you only have so much wall space, and where eventually it's like I can't even look at any of this stuff anymore. So yes,
Yeah.
when you're paying $2,000-$3,000 for a statue and you can't even display it because you have a dozen others all set up in your display.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know what's crazy? You know who had a bunch of statues was Ollie's or Otto's Granary. You remember them?
oh yeah, no, they used to. They may still do. They used to do a lot of those. Because I know they got into pops and collectibles, and they got into the Disney statuaries, which was a market that we were like in through Diamond. You could get the Disney statuaries, and I think I still can, but those were a good example of some of the smaller ones that were a little higher price, mainly just based off of licensing.
Yeah.
And the superheroes could be that size or a little bigger and still be a little cheaper.
Dang.
Until about 6 or 7 years ago. And then it started to outweigh the Disney side of it.
Man, well, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I've never been a statue guy. I've seen them, but it's like you said, where are you going to put it?
Yep, that's always the thing. They're pretty. So like when we used to carry them, I mean, sometimes to display them, we have to open them, and some of them are a little assembly required. It's not much, you know.
Yeah.
Like they'll have just to be able to package them, or they'll come with more than one head or something like that. You have to kind of put an arm on and a head on, and put little pieces of the background diorama up. Not really a big deal, but it's neat to see them even out of the box. But beyond that, without having that type of display case or ability to display them, just imagine doing that in your home. And it is, you just have to have that kind of space.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I've heard. What is the brand? Hot Toys.
Hot Toys is one of those
Yeah.
Japanese market ones
okay.
that Sideshow carries. They became the exclusive distributor of Hot Toys
Oh
in
shoot.
2019. Yeah,
Okay.
so Hot Toys you used to could get, because Hot Toys is a Japanese import.
Yeah.
And you used to could get it from multiple distributors, and then I want to say it was 2019. It's pre-pandemic, but like by a hair.
Yeah.
It's like 2019, right around there, Sideshow became the exclusive U.S. distributor for Hot Toys.
Okay.
And as soon as that happened, their internal prices, the stuff they themselves produced, also started to climb, because
Yeah.
now they were competing with themselves in an expensive market,
That makes no
and
sense.
could sell wholesale to places like this,
Right.
but also could sell direct to the consumer. So they're also my competitor. Anytime your
That's
distributor is your competitor, and it's not a product you have to carry,
Right.
eventually, even if you don't want to, eventually you stop carrying the product. It happens inevitably.
Well, there's no way to compete with them anyway.
No, because they can do point systems, and
Yeah.
they can let people, their payment scale is people can make payments, and with their point system, then they get, if they get so many points after buying so many different things, they can get free stat. They can't get that through me.
Yeah.
I mean,
you
I
wouldn't be
get
able to set that up.
maybe a 20% margin, maybe a 20% margin on their product. So that's nothing
Yeah.
compared to what they can do selling direct.
That kind of reminds me of Funko and their whole system. It's
Yeah, they sell direct too. They also screwed themselves, because even though they have and had a pretty healthy wholesale program, theirs is way better than 20%. It's in this market, it's mainly 50. So you're usually in most cases paying half of what the MSRP is.
Yeah.
And Funko, it's not printed on the product, so it's just gauging off of what your bigger markets are. So $11.99, $10.99, they'll have an MSRP for something, but you'll usually pay about half that.
Yeah.
So you know that when your GameStop's doing your buy to get one free or whatever they're doing, I mean they're taking a margin hit, but it's not as big a deal as if like Hasbro. I mean, our margins on that are 10%. I mean,
Dang.
Walmart's retail is low. Walmart's retail plus tax is lower than our wholesale.
Oh.
Which is why people always complain about specialty shops being expensive. But it's I mean, Walmart's intentionally not making any money off of this.
Well, they don't need to.
They don't need to. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And
There's no
so
reason.
Mattel is almost as bad. I think their margin's probably a little bit better. I could probably wholesale get a Mattel item for maybe $1 per item cheaper than Walmart retail.
Yeah.
It's on a $20 item. What's $1 profit?
Yeah. I mean, what's that going to benefit you?
Not
you know?
much. But
Yeah.
for a market like this, they're loss leaders. There's still a fan base for them, and they're in a price point that's not like unattainable for the average buyer. So if it draws people in and they're like, hey, we always want to see what kind of new action figures you're getting. I mean, we'll have the few that's all they'll come in for. And if we don't have what they're looking for, they're out the door, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But the whole loss leader idea is that, well, maybe they'll buy a comic, maybe they'll maybe they'll buy a book, maybe they'll find something else that they might eventually come back for. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a alternate motive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Trying to entice them into getting something. Yeah. So what are you carrying? Because I see you have some, but
Well, I try to carry anything that is like superhero, directly related to products. So, I mean, I'll carry Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, some Transformers, but Transformers have so many diverse lines
yeah, that's true.
that I try to just stick in what they call kind of the collector side. But I do have occasionally I'll carry an all ages style
Yeah.
where it's a little bit cheaper and meant to be kind of open and played with. They're a little bit more durable.
Yeah.
Because I'll get the kids that come in and they do want a Spider-Man action figure or a Hulk figure or Superman or a Batman. So we'll carry those occasionally, but yeah, Marvel Retro. There's Hasbro has developed Marvel Legends as a line has developed such a long-term loyalty among its fan base that people make dioramas, just like G.I. Joe. They make
Yeah.
dioramas and displays and take pictures of them and share them online in different groups and forums. And they're always looking for that one X-Men that it has to fit this very particular team. And
Yep.
maybe Hasbro hasn't made it in a long time or something like that. So I absolutely respect it. But yeah, and then the McFarlane line, I'll carry into the DC McFarlane line, which will carry over to Mattel the beginning of next year. So
Okay. So wait, McFarlane's moving to Mattel?
no, McFarlane lost the license last year.
Oh, okay.
So Mattel won the license for DC. They had lost it when McFarlane got it, and I don't know if nobody knows the details that I've read or seen, what if they were outbid or if he just let it lapse or didn't want it anymore. But Mattel got it in 2025, or very early 2025. And originally it was rumored that starting in 2026, Mattel would take over the line. And then it looked like, so this year Mattel will take over the line. They take it over in June, but they're taking over what they call the all ages line. So they will start making Batman and Superman and all of those figures, but they are a little bit cheaper, a little bit more playable figures.
Okay.
And they take over the collector line at the beginning of 2027.
Okay.
So all the McFarlane, so that's why McFarlane has been pumping out DC product like nobody's business.
I was wondering, because
It's like last year was
crazy.
insane. This year is insane. Because at the end of this year, he essentially the license lapses. He no longer will be able to make DC, which is a big moneymaker for him. I mean, he has some of the gaming license, Diablo, and what's the other one that he has? Oh my God, I'm running blank. But he's got the sports line, Mortal Kombat, World of Warcraft, a couple of others, more in the gaming vein. But there's nothing really else in his product line that I carry.
Yeah.
I'll carry the Mortal Kombats because I have people that are interested in those, but I don't do sports since I don't do sports cards or sports memorabilia at all, and so I don't know what he's going to do. I'm assuming the sports license does really well for him, but I have no idea. I've been so far out of that game for a long time.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been much of a sports card collector.
When I was younger, I got into it. I
Yeah.
mainly got into it from the store. When I was a teenager, older people, the older people around were really into sports cards, and we sold sports cards.
Yeah.
And this would have been between 86 and 92, which would have been like right before the boom, then during the boom, and then right at the crash, which when sports cards crashed in the 90s, they crashed hard.
Yeah.
So we were there for it. We were only one of 2 specialty stores in town that carried sports cards. The other one being Faust Stamps and Coins, which is now the Lone Star Sports Collectibles.
Oh yeah.
They're kind of as the migration has shifted. That was originally Faust, who was in the mall and then across from the mall and then over on 50th Street and now over there. But they were a coin and stamp place in the 70s and 80s, collectibles, and then they got into sports cards before we did.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it during that time period.
Yeah.
It was fun. I had never been a baseball fan growing up, but I really got into baseball from sports cards. It's kind of like people becoming sports fans from playing fantasy football or rotisserie baseball or something. I didn't really know anything about it, but just like learning the stats and learning how people from these older guys that kind of grew up with baseball cards, kind of learning how they did it. It was fun.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with it for a little while.
That's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of a more hands-on RPG system.
Oh, that's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when anybody talks about fantasy football, I mean, it's like that's all they're doing. They're
exactly.
They're just playing nerd stuff.
Yeah,
It's
they'll
like,
never admit it. But,
No, they won't. But I mean, I've been in enough fantasy leagues and seen the way they behave, and since I've grown up around this my entire life, it's like, oh no, you guys are exactly the same. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what you're doing, nerd fantasy stuff. That's it.
Might as well embrace it. I mean. Well, Mr. Robert Mora,
Yes.
the owner of the Star Comics.
Yes.
So, your uncle Sid, right?
Yes.
Okay. He owned the shop before you. Preceding him, though, you had mentioned that it was just a bookstore.
Yeah, it was a used bookstore, and starting in 1975, it was just called Star Bookstore, and it was just a what you can in your head imagine a strip mall used bookstore shop with kind of your homemade bookshelves and racks and things of that nature. And then in 1977, they added comics to the name because a gentleman by the name of Mike Gulick, who was a friend of the store, formerly of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, when he was in college and had graduated college, told me a story that he had gone to Denver, Colorado, and he was a big comic book fan, and he had gone to this place which is pretty famous in the world of comics called Mile High Comics, and was noticing that they had the Spider-Man comics on the shelf that, as far as he knew, weren't coming out for like 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
So he asked the people there, like, how are you getting all this stuff? And they were like, oh, you just order it. And they gave him the information he asked for, because what was known as the direct market was just brand new at that time.
Right.
I mean, it was just starting.
Yeah.
So there weren't a whole lot of shops that were carrying comics in the direct market, which just means a non-returnable market. And so he came back to Lubbock and went to the used bookstore and said, hey, me and my brother, if we buy these comics from these distributors, just so we can get the comics early, we'll help you pay for them.
Yep.
Will you carry them? And that's kind of how that's kind of the hidden history there. And it just comics were added to the name soon after, and then became pretty much the dominant sales force for the store from then on out.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the point where in the mid to late 90s, we kind of phased out the used book section. We ran out of room. It was a very small space. And we were lucky in 2018 when we moved into the space that we're in now, which was at the time a used bookstore.
Well, there you
so
go.
we moved. So we moved, and so it had the pre-built shelves and had the history and everything. And we were big fans of the bookstore, which was called Hester Books at the time.
Okay.
We were a big fan of the bookstore itself, and sad to see them go, but it gave us an opportunity to kind of add books, used books, back into the repertoire. So
awesome. Do you do used comics?
We do. Since we've been around so long, obviously we still have backlog of comics and overstock that, since it's not returnable, it adds up quickly. And you never know in the world of collectibles. Sometimes you will try to maybe discount things or liquidate things or give things away. And we do lots of donations. We do lots of giveaways. We do all kinds of things where obviously we don't keep and hold on to everything for that entire time. But since we have been around so long, I'm always going through comics, old and new. So
yeah. Okay. Have you thought about auctioning some of those off, or?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a little bit online, not a whole lot. That's a whole business unto itself.
Right.
Which is great. It's fun. I've done a little bit of it, just enough to know that, wow, this is a lot of work, and I've just doubled my workload. And so my main focus, I like to keep my focus mainly on the store itself, the physical location, and dealing with customers face to face, and kind of the community aspect of it all. Being sort of that third space for a fan base, whether they've been into comics for a really long time or they're kind of new to the whole idea of comics. I mean, physical media is something that is always, everybody always says it's going away, something's going to happen to it. But inevitably, there's always a new generation that discover that there's something about that tangible physical media, whether you're talking music or movies or books or comics, just that tactile experience of having something in your hand and being able to engage with it on more than just kind of the visual level.
Well, and that's like vinyls.
Yeah, exactly.
They're still in high demand. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, very
I've
much
seen
so.
some that are outrageously expensive
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah,
But
and I enjoy the collector market aspect of comics, like any hobby.
right,
It's not my exclusive focus, but and, and and for collectors where it is,
yeah,
that's great. We try to cater to that as well, but we're always focused on just having people kind of be engaged with the hobby itself because
sure,
it is multifaceted and it has been around a long time. I think a lot longer than some people might realize. Um, so we just try to at least cater to a lot of different levels of how people engage with comics.
gotcha. Okay, so you've lived and breathed comics for a really long time, man.
Pretty much my entire life. Yeah, I've been involved in some way, shape, or form with the store since I was a very small child.
Okay,
The first comics I remember ever in my life were given to me by my uncle, and it was right around the same time that the Star Wars movie came out in 1977. And they made these big, oversized Treasury editions that were essentially adaptations of the script
yeah,
for the movie. And as a little kid, looking at these big Treasury editions, it was amazing. I love that movie so much as a little kid. My mother had to read the little intro scroll to me, because I couldn't even read yet. And but I could go when he gave me those. I was able to go home and I could lay down on the floor and look at the pictures, and I could replay the movie over and over and learn
yes,
some of kids are really great at memorizing like
oh yeah,
dialogue and scenes and things like that, and then they did a really good job with that adaptation, so I could kind of put some of the words together and the scenes together. And
yep,
I didn't teach myself how to read, obviously my family did, but it was part of that whole
sure, yeah,
experience.
yeah,
And yeah, from then on, I just always enjoyed and loved just discovering
yep,
new books and new worlds and all the things that came with not only just discovering the story, but seeing the different artists and the pictures and the panels, and
oh yeah.
was always fun for me.
Well, and there's so many. We talked about it last time. There were so many different ways to get into collecting. It's art,
Yeah.
it's story, it's what's this, reselling even.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when I was kind of a teenager and I discovered more like that the dollars and cents
Yes.
aspect of collecting. And I had a blast. I loved it. It
Yeah.
was fun. Um, it added another layer to like my enjoyment of it,
Yeah.
and frustration too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
anybody who ever gets into any hobby and it becomes monetary, yeah, there can be a lot of there's
No
losses.
doubt.
There's losses that come with the
Yes.
wins.
No
Um,
doubt.
so it can be a frustrating part of the hobby just as a fan, but I still enjoyed it and still
Yeah.
do to this day. I like all the different facets of it.
So do you still collect or
Well, I mean, my collection's pretty much the store.
right?
It's pretty much around me 24/7, or it feels like 24/7. So I do, but my collection then quickly gets turned around and sold off. That with the
Right.
purpose of, oh wow, that was a cool acquisition. I like getting this, or I ordered this item because it's like, oh, that's gonna look really pretty on a shelf,
Mm-hmm.
and it does. It just
Right.
doesn't go to a shelf at my home. It goes on a shelf
Yes.
here until it goes to somebody else's home, and it will look really pretty on a shelf. But
Yes.
it's kind of funny. I mean, even when I order things, a lot of times with not only just the experience of working with the public and people who collect comics, but there's still always that hint in my own mind of what I think would look and feel
Yes.
good, like
Right.
whether it's based off of the artist and the writer, or even just the production value of it. But a really pretty hardcover,
Oh yeah.
a really pretty slip case, a nice binding. There's all those things that go into it that I'm still to this day a big fan of.
Well, hey, I mean that's good to have.
And I'm lucky. I get to see it, and
Yeah, exactly.
it gets to be in my possession. So
Right.
so I don't take it for granted at all. But I do collect for the purpose of bringing it to other collectors.
Yes. Yeah.
That's kind of how I collect. I collect for other people to
Man.
be able to collect.
That's an awesome philosophy, though. I like that.
Yeah.
'Cause in a way, you're almost more focused on the customer than you are on your own.
I try to, yeah, no, and everybody can kind of get into that trap. And people who get into kind of businesses like this because it's a hobby or a passion of theirs, it's a trap that we've all fell into. So I'm not immune to it, or it's not something that I was never involved in. But you do realize at one point, if you are lucky enough to have it be successful and be able to sustain it for a long period of time. I still know people who have been in this industry as retailers much longer than me that still have personal collections. They're like amazing personal collections, and they're good at it, and they still have great shops, and they're still really good with their customers.
Yeah.
It just turned out to be a way that I had to do it for my personality and my style.
Right.
I kind of had to turn one part of that off to be able to make that transition. But some people aren't so lucky, and yes, their stores or their hobbies that they try to turn into businesses become too much their hobby.
Yeah, it could make the business a little too old-fashioned and not successful, I would say.
Definitely. I mean, and and it's just a personal philosophy. There's nothing worse than having that there's one thing sharing your collection with somebody and going, oh, look what I was able to get. But there's this thing about being a store, and it's just my personal opinion, and doing that type of sharing, and you're running the risk of coming across of, look what I have that you can't have.
Yeah, see?
It's a risk.
Yeah.
And I know I have run into that enough in my distant past where I realized accidentally that it's like, oh, that's probably how that came across. That I definitely, those are some of the lessons that I learned along the way. Well, it's something that eventually gets presented to everyone, and an opportunity that another fan can enjoy and take to their home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, so Star Comics been around for so long, you've probably definitely done a lot in the community.
Yeah, I mean, at least I like to think that I have. We do things like Free Comic Book Day,
right?
Which is something that started, oh my goodness, I didn't remember off the top of my head. I want to say 2004, 2005 maybe would have been the first, around that time period so we've been there since the very beginning, and that's an event, for those that don't know, that it's the first Saturday in May. It was an idea that was created by publishers and retailers, more as like an open house idea for bringing people into comic book stores.
Right.
And in its early days, you buy this product, you give it away to the public, and there's no template. There's no like, here's the how-tos because they were just inventing it as they went along as well. To now, it is a national thing. People know what it is.
Yeah.
At least if they've kind of been around the industry for a little while, they know what it is. And that's a big deal that every comic shop usually participates in. And it's very community oriented and community minded. You are actively giving product away, creating an open house environment for people who live in your neighborhood, live in your city. It's usually a very inviting event. We've also helped co-found, and fund and sponsor different events for things like conventions and swap meets and things of that nature. The most current one is I'm a member of the board of directors on an event called Lubbock-Con, which happens every year in February. And that is a not-for-profit, completely volunteer-based, but it's essentially a Comic-Con, a comic convention. Right. As people know it, even though it's, there's gaming and anime and comics and cosplay and all the things that people now associate with things of that nature. Yeah. And it's been really rewarding, and it's 100% volunteer based, and which we're very proud of, but at the same time, that presents its challenges as well.
Yeah, I understand.
Getting people to work really, really hard all year round for free.
Well, and
yourself included.
I know what goes into shows like that too, and it's not cheap.
Yeah, no, it is very rewarding, and it has been kind of one of the more modern things of my career that I'm very proud of.
Do you go out into different cities, or is it you
No,
try to stay mostly
it's mainly
Lubbock?
Lubbock based. That's
Okay.
our focus. I mean, hence the name.
Sure.
It's very kind of community minded with
Hmm.
being able, like, kind of the original vision was those things seem to be presented in a lot of large major cities at the time. And even though the whole idea of pop culture conventions are very, very mainstream now, and you can find them in a lot of different markets. When we started that one in particular 10 years ago, and then I helped co-found one prior to that, even 5 years prior to that, they were hard to find.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really, you would have to travel to Dallas, you would have to travel to Austin, you'd have to travel to larger markets in the state of Texas or nationwide to find those things. And we wanted to bring that type of event to the scale of Lubbock. So knowing our market, knowing our community, kind of the expectations the community may have towards a bigger event like that. And so it's grown gradually over the years, but that's why we're really proud of it, because it does have the community in the city of Lubbock focused in its production.
Sure.
By design, it's like, this is the Lubbock version for everyone here, and that changes from year to year, because obviously everybody's population shifts and changes, and since we are a city with a major university, I mean, you've got a lot of different people coming and going. So, which is part of the success of places like Star. I don't know if a place like this could exist for as long as it has without having a major university like that.
Well, I was going to bring that up anyway. Do you see a lot of new faces every school session, or every new school year, rather?
Yeah, when I was young, when I very first started like being involved in or working at the store, I was in middle school myself, but tech had, the whole idea of the university, the college student, had a lot to do with our customer base. And then over the years, it's kind of gone through its shifts, just like all markets have.
Sure.
But I think the university has always played a very big part in just the consumer, bringing in the new faces, people that are passionate about art, people that are passionate about literature, people that are just kind of interested in what is there to do in a place that they may not, they may only be here for 4 years.
Sure.
Some of them became collectors just because they were in college and their friends were doing it. And so they were like, hey, we thought this was really cool. Some people brought it from their hometown, and they're like, hey, I'm glad there's a shop that I can go to while I'm here. So I've seen all the different versions of that. But in the modern day, I would say starting about 2 years ago, we started to see a new uptick in that age group, which was really exciting, seeing kind of the 16-year-old, the high school age, up into the early 20s, the college age, which weren't missing, but were not as many as we had seen in the past. And then starting last year and the beginning of this year, I think our college market, just that age group, that demographic, has just really exploded in the world of comics, just with the excitement for projects like manga and anime being a major influence even in the U.S. comic market, but seeing major things in products like Absolute Batman from DC, which is a huge juggernaut right now, the Ultimate line for Marvel Comics, which has been a really big deal, to everything from new Dark Horse Image, IDW, and Boom product. It's been really exciting just to see a lot of young faces get really excited with comics in general, for all the different reasons. Some of them love collecting, some of them love back issues, which would be older comics versus the brand new ones, which we'll get the questions because we have things labeled on our boxes that say back issues. When we get the people that go, what are back issues? It's really funny. We've seen that cultural shift because that's a very periodical publication term, It's the back catalog of what was in whatever publication it may be. These are the issues we have in our back catalog. Back issues. To take for granted that people don't know what the word back issues, but not demeaning it at all. It was more like an aha moment of this is a new shift. This is
Yeah.
a new wave.
Kind of morphing into new evolution to whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, using old terms and being able to teach what they mean.
Well, and that's like a newsstand and direct edition.
Yeah. Yeah,
Man.
absolutely. Which, again, yeah, newsstand. Well, what do you mean by newsstand?
what's a
Yeah, those are
newsstand?
terms that you take for granted, where there's a whole group of people that don't, and some care, or
Yeah,
some
yeah.
are interested, and some aren't, and that's perfectly okay too. But
Sure.
yeah, it's that is definitely something that I would not have had to explain even 20 years ago.
Right.
With a new group of college age or high school age fans coming in and asking. Periodicals were still a thing. So
Man. So I'm curious on your end, why is Absolute Batman taking off so hard?
I saw a really good video recently, very recently. I've asked that same question, and not because I don't think it's a great product. I think it's really good, but what it was that was grabbing the attention of kind of a new generation of readers, and it's a gentleman by the name of Chris. His video series is called Comic Tropes, and he's somebody that I've followed for a long time. And he did a little series on, and he's a big manga and anime fan, and he made the comparisons on Nick Dragotta's art with manga and anime.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't catch on to that until I kind of heard and watched him break it down, and I think he's on to something.
Right.
Obviously, there's multiple reasons, but I think that is definitely part of it. That it's already speaking a language to a group of people that are already kind of invested in that type of storytelling, and so it just launches it into a different area.
Yeah.
But also, when you're talking cinema, horror is kind of one of the leading
That's
factors. And it's Batman horror. It's action adventure. It's a little edgy, but it does a lot of like body horror and things of that nature. It's very Akira, Fist of the North Star. Everybody. Some of the characters are really giant and overly giant, and some of the villains are grotesque. And the backgrounds some are really intricate, and some are really plain and basic, and I think he was onto something, and that really was kind of an exclamation point above my head for like, oh, I can see that. That definitely answers a couple of questions that I had.
Well, that does definitely make a lot more sense, because I was wondering that myself. Like when I first got the first one, it was just standard, and then like the next day people were saying you can't even get them anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
I mean
it just came out.
Yeah, the popularity is a lot of it is driven by fear of missing out. There's a little bit of that too, and that's going to be kind of in the more modern. But I think that the product itself, and that's what I'm really proud of with modern comics in general, is that when we go through these waves of maybe things get hot or hard to find or difficult to obtain, I think the product itself warrants it. Like there's quality behind the product, the art and the storytelling and everything. It's there, so you can justify the reason, even though maybe some of those market shifts may kind of they have their ups and their downs, their peaks and their valleys. At least the product itself is good. It's something that maybe 10 years down the road, if it's not quote unquote hot anymore, it's perennial. It's something that you would still be able to present to somebody and go, this is a really good read. I think you'll enjoy it.
Well, and that brings up a next question, because I was going to ask that anyway. Like, okay, say you get Absolute Batman, and then 10 years down the road, you would assume that it would raise in value, would it not?
Yeah, like, so, I mean, on the collectible side of just like anything, your original pieces are the ones that are going to increase in value.
Sure.
And it's always, market is always about, you've got more buyers than you have product, and that's what's going to raise the price of anything. So probably your best across the board example would be something like Walking Dead.
Okay,
so when Walking Dead first came out, it's a book it's self-published essentially, even though it's through Image Comics. Image Comics is really just a collaboration. It's kind of a co-op of people who own their own IP.
Right.
And it gives you a central place to be able to present it and sell it and promote it, but you, the creator, are the one that owns the product. So that also means you have to pay for it. That means that it has
Yeah.
to come out of your pocket. So when you have an untested or unproven, or you're young or you're new, and you've got a great idea, and Image says, "Yeah, welcome aboard. We think that this would be a good fit for our company."
Sure.
You still have to front the money for it. So when you're setting your print runs and you're getting your orders from shops around the country, and you're realizing, oh, okay, I got about orders for 4,000 copies. Great. I know I've got that many sold.
Yeah.
How many more can I sell?
Yeah.
And, you know, based on your budget, that you may only crank that up by 1,000 or more copies.
Man.
Well, you know, a few years down the road, you get this hit television show, and with millions of viewers, and, you know, it becomes a cultural phenomenon, so to speak.
Yes.
Well, now those 4, 5, 6,000 copies that you printed out of your own pocket many years ago, you got millions of fans going, "Hey, I hear this was a comic before it was this," and not only do I want to read it, and they did. I mean, it sold very well, but some of them want to collect it. Well, now you got millions of people after 6,000 copies
Yes.
of one book. So
That's insane.
that's the Absolute Batman. Obviously, they've got the power of DC behind
Right.
them and Warner Brothers behind them. So they're not just printing 6,000 copies, but you have a fan base that is much larger now than the ordering, buying population of the first issue,
Sure.
even, you know, close to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's the wave. That's the difference. And I think that a lot of those people will continue to be fans as long as, you know, DC and the editors and the creators that are working on it kind of treat it with the respect that I think they are doing, which
Yeah.
is, you know, love the creation that you've made and have respect for your fans, but also, you know, tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that it's something different because I mean, to be honest, most Batman stories have just been a retelling over and over and
They
over
are,
again.
and they always run that risk, and that's the
Yeah.
problem with big IPs like that. They
Yeah.
run that risk of maybe there is a creative story to be told in there, but
Yeah.
somebody has to step in and go, whoa, 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 we can't tell that story because, you know, and, you know, imagine whatever scenario you can with your big properties that are worth, you know, billions of dollars, and make that company, you know, millions of dollars a year. And they're like, no, we can't have Batman do that. We can't have a story about Batman doing this. Absolute Batman took some of those shackles off a little bit. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, you're still using the term Batman. You're still under the brand DC. But now you've stuck this word in front of it. You've taken it a little bit, what they say, out of continuity. And you're able to do some of those things that you probably weren't able to do in a regular Batman story. And all of a sudden, wow, imagine that. You
Yeah,
get a
it takes
response.
Yeah, it's
So-
kind of like the DC Black Label stuff.
Mhm, yeah.
when they were
Yeah,
doing
very
that.
much so. And where that might be a little different is the formats for Black Label were they're more like a magazine format for those that,
Yeah, yeah.
didn't know. Not all of them, but some of them were. And they were usually either 2 or 3 issues, and then that completed the story. And
Right.
a lot of them were well told, had great creators, beautiful art. But it's kind of a one and done type thing. The absolute series, which includes Batman and Wonder Woman, Superman, Green Lantern, Flash, Martian Manhunter, and then we'll have Green Arrow and Catwoman later on,
Yes.
which a lot of people are excited about.
Yeah.
They are telling that story, the longer form,
Yeah.
the longer form story, which I think gives time for new people to hear about it,
Yep.
catch on to it, try to get caught up on it. So I myself, just personally as a fan, I'm a big fan of things that do have an ending.
Yeah.
Even if maybe there's going to be a continuation of the visual or the
Sure.
story or something of that nature, but where the creators that kind of began a story, they at least get to end their story.
Yeah.
And not just leave everything kind of in a wash or on a cliffhanger, or just kind of it drops off because it just doesn't. I like an ending. And so
Yeah.
I think even things like Absolute Batman, as long as there is an ending for how it began, it will have that perennial long-term sellability.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's like the whole Star Wars phenomenon. I mean, how many freaking Star Wars stories are there? Good Lord.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, And funny enough, some of the more popular ones are the ones that don't necessarily involve all the characters that everybody's familiar with.
Exactly.
Which, in the world of comics, there are some great like comics about Darth Maul. There's the books that took place that they've been writing for the past, I want to say close to 15 years now, but maybe not that long.
Yeah.
That take place before New Hope, or take place between New Hope and Empire and Return. They do really well, and they've told really great stories.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's so much to tell there between the video games, movies, television series, the book series, the novelizations, the ones that are not considered canon anymore, the ones that are.
Well, in my opinion, though, it's almost as if you create something, and in my opinion, the original franchise has an ending. Like you talked about, it started and it finished, and now, I mean, the world that George Lucas created is essentially building itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
With all these extra add-ons.
It's kind of like a D&D game,
Exactly. Exactly.
You gave everybody the template, and now what some of them are able to do with it from there, as long as they stick within the frameworks and the rules.
Yes.
It can be a successful. Yeah, I mean, we've been the world of comics definitely has delved into those type of long-running world-building IPs for a long time. Star Trek being kind of one of the originals of where Paramount and Gene Roddenberry, and for such a long time period, even before Next Generation was on the air, you still had books and fan-made like manuals, and I mean, they didn't endorse them, but they didn't shut them down, and that was part of what kept that alive up to that point.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that show hadn't been on the air up to that point, hadn't been on the air for 2 decades.
Yeah.
But yet still had a very active fan base.
Exactly.
And Next Generation made some of them very mad at first, and then they fell in love with it and never looked back.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of how a cult franchise starts.
Yep. Absolutely.
It starts with, hopefully, we'll see what happens with the absolute Batman, but
Yeah, for sure. And that whole idea of an absolute universe where you take something that's familiar but you put little twists on it. I mean, it's not the first time that it's been done, but and it will, like all good things, it probably will eventually just start to feel like DC proper, which is not a bad thing. DC proper tells great stories, has some really good titles. But it's that being innovative and being new. It's that new car smell, that has a lot to do with the popularity of something like an absolute Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's lightning in a bottle. It can be captured, but man, it's hard.
That is true. And you can't predict it either.
Oh no.
Yeah.
As soon as you think you have the formula for it, absolutely not. It's like saying, I know how to write a hit song.
You don't.
Every band will always tell you, we threw that one on in the last second, and of course that ends up being the hit.
And they're still singing, like there's some that people were singing in the 60s that are still just cranking it, and couldn't tell you how they made it. But, yeah, man. But when I was thinking in that conversation, like I wonder, because we had talked about how Marvel almost went out of business there, and DC's been trying to do their movie thing for a while, and they really should stop.
I mean, I think it's always that hunt for extracting all the value out of your intellectual property that you possibly can. I mean, I think people, they love to go back and look at the MCU as like this magical thing that had it by design from the very beginning, but no, they kind of just like comics do, they kind of accidentally tripped over and fell into this actually worked. And it's not like they're not talented and they didn't kind of have some of those designs set, but it wasn't as just like hard designed as everybody likes to remember it. But it did work, and that's because they allowed a lot of creative people, a lot of creative freedom to kind of come in and do things with, honestly, characters that weren't mainstream characters. I mean, that's why Marvel had to sell X-Men to Fox, and that's why they had to sell Spider-Man to Sony, just to get out of just to edge themselves out of bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
Those were their popular, most valuable properties, and they
Yep.
sold them for a song. And that's why their hands were tied behind their back, because anybody in 2008, pre Robert Downey Jr. being Iron Man, if you asked the average person on the street, hey, who's Iron Man? What is, they would look at you like you're crazy. Iron what? You know, I mean, they
Yeah.
would, most of them would probably know the Black Sabbath song before they would even know the Marvel character. We're
Exactly.
talking the average on the street person,
Yeah.
to the point where now, oh no, yeah, Iron Man's a household name. Well, that was the
Right.
Avengers. The Avengers was always the team. X-Men was the Marvel team.
Yep.
That is what sold books. The Avengers they were the consolation prize. I mean, there were some years you couldn't give Avengers books away.
Yeah.
They weren't bad. They just weren't the X-Men, you know.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't
the average
Yeah.
comic fan in the 1970s and 1980s, they were all of that. It wasn't the X-Men. So so it kind of created that creative freedom for them of,
Mhm.
well, we're not handcuffed by these expectations of either a fan base or even kind of a creative side that we're going to ruin this IP. I mean, what if Iron Man's a huge flop? What happens?
Yeah, like, what's the
Nothing.
worst?
It's like we barely were selling Iron Man comics up to this point anyway.
Exactly.
We'll just keep selling the same number of Iron Man comics that we already were.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to any of the creativity or the titles that were there before. It just wasn't a bestseller.
Right.
So they didn't really have to worry about a whole lot. Now we're at the point where everybody complains about the MCU. Well, that's because we're talking about valuable IP with a lot of expectations and a lot of corporate heads going, "Oh, we can't have Captain America do that. We can't do that with Iron Man. I don't think that's a good idea."
Exactly.
That's where we always kind of end up with the definitely kind of like, you know, the corporate hobby stuff with whether you're talking Star Wars or Marvel or DC. And DC, as far as kind of their movie and television thing, I like to see them go in the directions that they've been and explore it as best they can. But there's no perfect formula there. There really isn't. I mean, can you make a show about Superman not flying? I enjoyed Smallville. I thought it was a really good show. And of course, sorry, spoilers. You know, he the show's about Clark Kent as a kid. He doesn't fly. Well, not until the very end.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of an inside joke for even the people that worked on the show itself.
Yep.
But it was a good show because they made it about people, which is what makes great comics and great movies and great stories in general. Is it's just about the people.
Well, and I think it's that finding what works for you because, you know, like even with the DC stuff, they tried the Marvel way.
Yeah.
And it obviously didn't take off.
Yeah, because they thought they had the formula.
Right,
and it's
but
like
you do it the way, like you mentioned Smallville. I've still got all 6 seasons on VHS. And it's like that's going to be a lifelong part of my life because they succeeded so well at that, you know.
And they did a good job of world building within something that didn't have a whole lot of expectations. Yeah. And they had the luxury of, you know, being on a network that kind of, co-owned the IP and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's much harder when you get to the cinematic side, and everybody's always trying to recreate Christopher Reeves and Richard Donner Superman, and now you have like the rift between James Gunn Superman fans and Zack Snyder Superman fans, and I mean I enjoy both of them for all the different reasons. You know,
Yes.
I'd like to see what James Gunn is doing, and actually what James Gunn is doing or what it feels like he's working towards, because we've only seen one movie.
Sure.
But what he's working towards is essentially where the comics themselves have been for the past 10 years or so.
Exactly.
And so he's really just kind of, which was sort of the success with the MCU. They really were just farming product from the prior to 2008 to the past 10 to 15 years of Marvel Comics.
Yep.
That's really all they were doing.
And
then reaching back a little bit older and pulling little bits and pieces out to add to it.
Yeah.
So it was proven stuff by by creative and wildly successful people in their industry. So yeah, you didn't have to work as hard because you're like,
Exactly.
oh wow, these people that came before us, they had some really fun and creative ideas.
Exactly.
So I think that if there is a formula, that's I think the one that James Gunn is working towards
I, I'm
is
I'm with you there, man. I'm excited to see. I mean, there's people that say they hate it, but I grew up on the Zack Snyder stuff, and it was at the time unique and different.
yeah. I mean,
They made Superman less of a Boy Scout, in my opinion,
and
but I enjoyed that. Now I'm enjoying the direction that bringing him in back to his roots, and it's interesting.
yeah, and Zack Snyder is as a personal opinion, he's a amazing visual.
Yes.
His artistry. I mean, he makes the prettiest
Mm-hmm.
like cinematography and action shots and the things that people always seem to focus when you're talking just like the kind of the DC stuff that he did.
Yeah.
Visually, it's really compelling
Oh
and
yeah.
it really grabs you. The storytelling is off sometimes. Just that's just my opinion, but yeah, no, he is amazing. His trailers, those are nice.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
so I mean I am a fan of what he did with
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff, but yeah, there's room in the world for both.
I think so. Yeah. Just open the door for it. I mean,
Yeah.
be accepting of the fact. Personally, I would like to see them move away from the big three and just do something
Oh,
different,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Which is interesting that our next movie is going to be about Supergirl.
Exactly.
And loosely based off of a really great Supergirl story.
Phenomenal story. Yeah.
So I'm all for it. Again, they're like, hey, somebody I told a really great story. We want to use bits and pieces of that for how we're going to present this later on. And
Exactly.
I think it's going places where the comics have been for a while, and it's good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you mentioned the Supergirl story. That comic did really well.
Yeah, that comic sold well. The creative team on that comic have critical acclaim and
Mm-hmm.
bestsellers and all of that stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as far as the market stuff goes, though, do you see any trends taking off besides Absolute Batman, or is it?
yeah, I mean, we since we have a much younger customer base than we've traditionally seen, they're far more willing to explore new things.
Okay.
So I see new titles from Image and even from Dark Horse and IDW and Boom taking off really well. Image has had a really big surge as of late. You've got still Invincible from Robert Kirkman, who also did Walking Dead. He's had a television series on Amazon Prime for a while that has been definitely capturing a young generation, which is
Mm-hmm.
also very anime focused.
I
It's
know.
very much so. That's where it kind of grabbed that audience. It's more in the Dragon Ball Z style, where you're always fighting the next biggest bad and doing all that kind of stuff. But they're very familiar with that style, and it's done really well. And so he has a book called Battle Beast that is part of the Invincible universe that's doing really well. There's a couple of books that are new on the shelf. One is called Dork.
Okay.
It's a short for dwarf orc
Okay.
that has been sort of within the world of comics a little bit of a cultural phenomenon. It's done really well. People are really excited about it, which it's in more that comedy fantasy realm, which
Okay.
is usually not, doesn't lean into the big hit. Sometimes they'll be your cult classics, but not always like your bestseller.
Yeah.
And it's reaching bestseller territory for Image, which I think is great
Yeah.
because it means that people are exploring kind of different genres within the world of
Yeah.
comics because everybody always, sometimes people confuse the genre for the medium. And, comics are a medium, superhero is the genre.
Right.
So, and we sell, even though superhero does dominate the US market, and it probably dominates our shelves like it does a lot of shops. We definitely love all genres.
Yeah.
So there's another one that's kind of in the same realm as like Walking Dead
Yeah.
called White Sky. That one's also been kind of a bestseller from Image and is taking off and is outside of the superhero genre. But Image and those other companies that I mentioned a lot of times are outside of the superhero genre because
Right.
you know, I mean, is your character always going to be able to compete with Superman?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You can always say if you pitch your comic as like, well, he's like Batman. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We've got Batman. We've got 15 different iterations of Batman.
Exactly.
You know, what else do you have? So,
Yeah.
if anybody who is maybe feeling like they want to create comics, a lot of your indie creators who may currently be working on superhero books probably cut their teeth on something not superhero, at least for a little while, if not initially. Because you can't. It's hard to reinvent the wheel. Not impossible, but it's hard.
Yeah. Well, I was like seeing that one right there, the Why the Last Man.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's one that's been recommended highly.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah.
So talking about like renaissances of new readers and everything. So this would have been during the early 2000s. This would have been a big Image renaissance at that time period for that fan base. People that would have been, you know, between kind of 16 and 22 in that time period. It's a book that would have really spoke to them.
Yeah.
Brian K. Vaughan is a great writer and has done some great stuff since then, and it's not his first work, but yeah, it was critical acclaim. It was a bestseller, and it was great to have books like that back in that time period be some of your bestseller, most anticipated books on the shelf.
Oh yeah. Well, and even in the superhero genre itself, I know it's kind of morphed a little bit because I remember, you know, you talk 80s, 90s, golden age, whatever, comics, it's more there's a big bad guy, he's all powerful, universe destroying, you know, multiverse was the thing, but not near like it is now. But nowadays it seems like I see, you know, they lean more towards you relate to the villain.
Yeah, they do. We do a lot of villain arcs are definitely something that we've been dealing with, I think, for several decades, and I think that really sort of started in the 80s. Villain sympathy arcs are. They're a thing, and I'm making that face and kind of saying it that way because I don't dislike them.
Right.
It as a fan of any form of storytelling.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, how many, and I can't think of examples off the top of my head, but just take like the Kevin Smith example of, you know, the whole Clerks idea of talking about, hey, well, you realize they just really just killed a lot of construction workers in Return of the Jedi. So who are the real bad guys?
Exactly.
You know, it's fun to deconstruct your kind of favorite stories and find those little plot holes and those little things that it's like, well, maybe Doctor Doom really is the good guy because Reed Richards really is a jerk. Those are fun. I've participated in all of those conversations. And but yeah, there is something to be said that villain arcs have definitely been a thing for a while.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember in that time period like villain arc being kind of a real big push in the superhero medium, but I would say probably mid 2000s into the teens, it started to really kind of ramp up a little bit.
Yeah, because I remember reading some of my early reading was they would kind of equal out the villain with the superhero enough to where they could easily overpower them, but it was like hard enough, you know. I think that was kind of starting the trend downward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you talk a classic, going back to Superman, talk a classic, Lex Luthor versus Superman, and becoming the battle of wits, which would be a Richard Donner reference, but also just usually some of your better storytelling from the 1970s into the early 80s of having Superman have to outwit his way of a situation versus just outpunch his way in a situation. That just takes really creative writing and a lot of like, and it's harder to do. Yeah. And some of these writers and editors, and they're on a deadline, man. So I don't begrudge them at all. Sometimes just punching your way out of the situation. That's how you get to the next episode. That's how you get to the next issue. We just kind of had to punch our way out of that one. Yeah. But I think there is still so much quality in the creative department for all the companies right now, which is, I couldn't necessarily say that same thing if you asked me the same question in sometime like 1994 to 1998. And I'm not saying that there were bad creators, but you just had a lot of really desperate editors. And I mean, when you started to reach into the crash of the comic book industry of that era, I think what was just happening is you were stretching a lot of people's creativity very thin.
Yes.
And their willingness to kind of explore and experiment with their properties, even though they were kind of dying on the vine. It was almost inevitable, but eventually it did happen.
Yeah.
And that was a result mainly of desperation.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and funny enough, they're recycling a lot of that now, because we talked about Marvel earlier, and I remember watching the Doctor Strange cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
When I sat and watched the movie, I said, this is literally the cartoon.
See, and
word for word.
Really? See, and I never saw the Doctor Strange cartoon.
It's just
That's
nuts.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, go back and watch it. It's so crazy, because he crashes the exact same way. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, so they're just recycling some old stuff to a generation that may not have remembered.
Yeah, and that would have kind of been an era that was outside of my,
Right.
like, I wouldn't have been the target audience of the Doctor Strange cartoon at that time.
Yeah.
I would have been too old. So.
Nobody's too old for cartoons.
Yeah, you know, you're not wrong. I'm not saying you're correct. You're not too old for cartoons, but once I had kids,
Yep.
it was almost inevitable. The cartoons became theirs, and sometimes I would watch them with them and enjoy them. But
oh yeah,
cartoons kind of just automatically in my world just kind of became theirs all of a sudden.
I understand.
It's like there was a transition with my kids too, where video games also became theirs. I was like, oh, you guys are getting way better than me.
Yeah.
I guess these are yours now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, in the video game thing, even when I was growing up, it was totally different than what it is now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, it's crazy to see those evolutions, and how what you did growing up is so different now, but it's the same, but it's not.
Yeah,
you know?
no, exactly.
It's all crazy. But so marketing wise, what is your kind of go-to strategy when it comes to pushing comics and keeping people coming in the store?
Well, I mean, my number one definitely is, and one of those, it's invaluable, and I think a lot of people always take it for granted, but word of mouth. And the way that you get word of mouth is by providing the best customer service you can provide. Consistency for anybody who is new to business for themselves, being in business for themselves, and it doesn't even have to deal with the hobby business. You have to have consistent hours, you have to have a consistent message, you have to have a consistent presentation. And I think maybe some people who are thinking about getting into business for themselves, those are some of the things that they should always at least be told about, or should concentrate on is, well, if you say you're going to be open from 11 to 6 or from 10 to 5 or from 8 to 8, then you need to be open those hours that you've advertised. So I would say marketing is definitely word of mouth is my number one. I do some online marketing. I've done a little bit of radio and television in the past, but it's not anything, it's not targeted enough, and I understand kind of how that works, but I think really just consistency is probably the number one thing that I've always focused on. And really just, the customer retention side of it is, I always try to treat everybody's experience in the store. I try to treat the environment as it's their environment. I'm welcoming them into an environment that they are a part of, not just welcoming them into my environment. So it's not just my store. I want it to also feel like theirs. Yeah. So that experience can be everything from the first moment that they walk in. Obviously, they're greeted. Obviously, they are presented with the opportunity to ask questions if they would like. Sure. But making sure that you are kind of playing off of their needs and what their engagement. So some people will go straight to a shelf, straight to a product, straight to an area, okay, well, I did my greeting, I did my presentation. They seem to know what they're going for now. And then some people will definitely give you the look like, I don't know the first thing about being in here. So you make yourself available to them.
Yeah.
But just definitely making the experience positive. That is not necessarily, some people may not call that marketing, but I do.
Yeah.
Because they are definitely going to, in some way, shape, or form, whether digitally or in person, they're going to talk about you afterwards. And that is at least brand recognition, positive brand recognition. But then also doing the community events and doing things like whenever we're invited to go to either a movie premiere, sometimes we're allowed to maybe sell or at least promote the store at a movie premiere, or collaborate with maybe another company or another group of stores that maybe there's a product or something that relates to a video game release or something like that. We've definitely done community-minded engagement in that way too. So pop-up shops and public engagement in that way, where we're at least going to another location and saying, oh, hey, by the way, you know, we do sell comics. If you're interested in this type of product, you can maybe also find us in this location.
Yeah.
It's really feels more like ground guerrilla marketing than a designed, organized marketing.
Yeah.
But it also feels very community minded for here. If I was in a much larger market, or if I had a very particular type of competition, or I know that I would have to kind of focus my efforts in different areas.
Sure.
But I think a lot of my experience and the way that I do some of my marketing is very targeted at what I feel I know the audience is looking for. But I'm also very open to understanding that audience does change. Their needs change, their demographics change, their age changes, their experience changes. And I have to kind of be willing to change with them. I'm not very rigid in everything that I do, how I do things, how my presentation are. I'm fluid in that, being fluid in like watching what other people do that works, responding, listening to, and reacting to kind of the customer base and what they're after is very important, I think, as well, for just being here as long as we have and hopefully being around for longer. Those are things that I don't take for granted either, with the more experience that I've gathered. Sometimes in the back of my mind, I feel like, oh, I've been doing this for so long. I've got this in the bag. I know exactly how to do this. And then I have those other days where I'm like, man, I don't know. I've been doing this for so long, and I feel like this is the second day on the job.
Yeah.
So if you feel both of those things, I think you're just doing kind of self-employment right, because that's the way being self-employed is.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but even to what we were talking about earlier, it can change.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In an instant.
And it can, and just being willing to move along with some of those changes, or at least willing to learn about those changes, is a big deal. So learning from either your new customer base. I mean, so when people tell me about a product, that's how I learn about a product. So I'm not going to tell somebody, or if somebody asks for something that I don't know about, it's never going to be we don't carry that. If I don't carry it, I will always ask the question if they seem to be receptive to questions. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it. Yeah. I've never heard of that. What is that? You know, and that's how I learn.
Yeah.
That's how our product line grows. That's how our potential to a customer base grows. Because now I know about a new product, a new character, a new book line that I personally may not have any experience with, or my current customer base may just have never told me about it,
right?
Or asked for it or requested it. You know, I can go through thousands and thousands of pages of product descriptions every month, and I do. There's a lot out there, so I can't carry everything. So again, my collection is here, so I have to kind of filter and cater my collection to what I think the audience that I currently serve is interested in. But I'm always wanting to explore, you know, the growth of that audience. So if there is a product line, or if there is a book that I can learn more about, I'm better for it. Yeah. And so I can now then maybe appreciate the value of, ooh, that line looks that would look really nice on the shelf, and that would coincide with this other book that I know that sells well or that we carry.
Yeah.
So that's I learn from my customers probably as much or more than they've ever learned from me.
Well, and I think that's cool because you build relationships that way, and then building relationships gets you repeat business.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I do enjoy talking to people. I enjoy learning from them. I mean, that is also the important part, is that I genuinely enjoy the one-on-one, the conversation part of it. And I know that not everybody, maybe naturally they don't feel that way, but if they don't, then they're at least try to find those ways to learn from others and have a little humility in that process. And it can be hard. I mean, there are days that maybe I'm not as receptive as I should be, but that's just me being a human being. So
we all go through it.
Yeah, but ultimately, I mean, the thought process for my day-to-day is that I'm absolutely here to not only like do my checklist and all the things that I'm supposed to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, but I am also here to kind of learn and enjoy the interactions with the public. And as far as marketing goes, that is marketing. I don't think some people may not understand it that way, but I know that there are a lot of others that do.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's what marketing is. Marketing 101 is, know your audience and what they respond to. And a lot of times people respond to conversation, interaction, and all of those things. And it's genuine. I mean, it really is. I am genuinely interested. They also can sometimes smell when they're being sold something that they don't want.
Yes. I feel like more now too.
Yeah, and I always try to put myself in their shoes because I too shop. I too go into other businesses, big and small, and I know how I like to be treated and how I don't like to be treated. And I try to find that happy middle ground. I don't assume that everybody that comes in here is me, but that's difficult. But at the same time, I can imagine, well, if I was a really gregarious, outgoing person and I went into a small, intimate environment, I might actually want people to speak to me.
Yeah.
But if I'm a really shy, introverted, and a little bit hesitant person, and I'm going into a really small, intimate environment, I might want people to keep their distance.
Yeah.
And I just have to gauge off of their reactions and responses to those things. And I'm not a gregarious, outgoing person, and I'm not exclusively a shy, introverted person either. I can kind of bridge a little bit of a gap in the middle sometimes. I can speak to people if I feel like they want a conversation, and I can leave people alone, but be available for questions if they need. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what you would expect. That's exactly what you would want coming into.
That's a good shopkeep. That's what the qualified shopkeep does, right? Whether they run a hardware store, a comic book store, or whatever else. That's the tricks of the trade of the shopkeep.
Well, and I remember you telling me about the displays too, how you're designing an environment where they want to come in.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I have definitely stumbled into all types of places where it's uninviting, and we're even talking corporate environments where it's like, oh wow, it's like you don't really want me to be here. There's a lot of stuff in my way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where my brain goes. My brain immediately, and I know that I'm looking at it through the lens of somebody that does retail for a living.
Right.
But that's the psychology of it. And that's the realization hits you where you're like, there is a psychology to this.
Yeah.
So people may not be what they're thinking when they go there, but it is.
Right.
I put the two and two together because I can tie it to my own experience and my own environment. But yeah, you've been in stores that are designed to say, hello, come inside, enjoy this space. And you've been to some that are like, whoa, I don't know if you should go down this aisle.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I definitely recognize when maybe we are heading in that direction, creating friendly face-out displays, entrance points and all of that stuff. And I am very much a nerd for that kind of thing. But it's not like I don't read like design books or retail design things. I just really just go off a feel.
Yeah.
And I could name them. And they're corporate, I promise. They're like big names, but there are some out there that it's like, man, you don't want me to shop here.
Exactly.
You hate me.
Yeah.
Like, you are telling me to get out as soon as I walk in the door.
Yep.
And then there are others that are, and there's plenty out there that are like, wow, I could spend all day in here. And
Mm-hmm.
so I take it as a big compliment when people walk in the door and they see our environment, and maybe they'll give a little, wow, we'll get that because we have a really nice big mural. It's up kind of very visible from the door, or our ceilings are a little taller. We're very lucky with that. You know, it's
Yeah.
not like I built the space or anything. We're lucky to have taller ceilings than we used to. And I know that that just creates this being able to look up and out
Yes.
is it's a luxury, and I am very lucky, and it's and I am happy to have the space.
Yeah.
But I take it as such a compliment when people are like, "Wow," or "Oh," that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, there's definitely a lot to it, and I know a lot of those big corporations that I think I know what you're talking about. They throw all their deals and sales right there at your face, right at the beginning, right when you walk in, and
Yeah.
that's all they want you to do is buy their crap.
yeah. Here's a big drop. Here's a big dump.
Yep.
Here's this. Here's that, and it's almost like, and I mean they get paid millions of dollars
Exactly.
to know better, and yet they still do it. It's amazing to me. But that also has, and that's something that I've only really seen in the past, I would say 5 to 10 years. So it's more current retail. So I kind of have a feeling that that's a shift in retail. That so just like tangible things, kind of being the almost like the historian of, oh yeah, you know, we sell tangible things, things that you touch.
Yep.
There's also kind of being the historian of retail environment. You know, what does the space feel like is just as important as what is in the space as well.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Well, and you want them to stick around and look around, and more comfortable they are, the more they're gonna
yeah, absolutely.
peruse. And
Yeah, I'm very nerdy about like lighting displays and stuff like that. And even though I'm not able to implement a lot of them, just either budget or time or things of that nature, I do pay a lot of attention to those things. Always
Yeah.
have.
yeah,
That is, I'm always so jealous of really like nice spaces and nice lighting, and I will always go into stores big and small and look at how their lighting setup is, or where the speakers for their sound systems are, or what type of shelving is made, whether it's hand built or
Yep.
handmade, or whether it's obviously corporate bought or purchased.
yes.
But I enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
Well, hey, as long as you enjoy it. But I mean, you can't really do that with a digital space. But I feel like digital has its place. You know.
It does, and I think you can do that with a digital space. I mean, that's there's a very specific website I'm thinking about in the world of comic books, and anybody who's really familiar, they know who I'm talking about. That as soon as you go there, it's like, oh, you don't really want me here, do you? I mean, however many pop-up ads and things that
Oh,
come up,
gosh,
and
the pop-ups.
I mean, no matter how you try to block them and this or that, and it's
And they make the X like
the X
microscopic.
is tiny, and yeah. So I think it really is the same. You
Yeah.
can make a digital environment very user friendly, very inviting. It's got pretty colors, it's got pretty buttons, it's very easy. The ease of use and all of that type of stuff makes you want to go back to it.
Yeah.
Versus one that it's like, well, I like buying stuff from here, or they've got really great information, or
Yeah.
I don't know if I really want to go back to that. I mean, everybody has their interfaces that are like
Yes.
that, whether they're just social media driven or whether they're like directional websites or apps that they use. No, I think there definitely is a big similarity, and a great marketer and designer knows that. They know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just created this design that really, not only is it user friendly, but does the user want to return to it?
Exactly.
Do they want to return to that experience in
Right.
some way, shape, or form? And there are so many different things that, I mean, whether you're talking Web 1.0 or the current web, whatever they call it now. I know it's app based, but
something.
but it makes people want to return.
Yeah,
And it doesn't just, it can just be ambiance and atmosphere too. You've got neat links. You've got, like I said, you've got great color contrast, and you paid really close attention to design.
Yeah.
Because obviously some people get paid a lot of money to do that kind of stuff, and they should, because obviously people psychologically, they react and respond to it.
Yeah.
And there are some things that can turn people away in a heartbeat. And you may have told your designer or you may have told somebody, no, I really need this there. And it's like, yeah, but if you put that there, it's like, no, I want that there.
Yeah.
And so I understand some designers, you kind of got to stick it there because somebody told you
Yep.
to, and you're like, it's not going to do what you think it's going to do.
Yes, as a
And
designer.
that's kind of like doing the
Yes.
product dump at the front of the
I
door, or sticking up, this stuff's weak in the middle of the aisles, or somebody told you, oh, you've got to do this. We've got this product, this company is paying us to do this, and this is happening, and this is happening. No, we have to do it. And then it's like, I don't think that's going to do what you think it's going to do.
Well, and then they blame you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, of course,
You messed this up.
No
yeah.
doubt. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, yeah, now that you mentioned that, I'm making the relation, because when I design websites, that's the mindset.
Yeah.
It's, can I eliminate steps so that the UI is easier, so they can get through? The more clicks they have to make, the less likely they're going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
If it's white walls and white bright lights, they're not going to want to be there.
Yeah. If it's really loud or if it's really quiet.
Exactly.
It's like you have to be in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like it can't be too loud because let's say a sound or music cuts out, and in this small of an environment. It's amazing how many spaces you'll go into and you don't even realize they have something playing in the background.
Yep.
When you don't realize it and then you catch on to it, that's the place that's doing it right.
Yep.
It always is. If you immediately know that the place is dead silent or you're hearing something immediately and it's somehow getting to you, then they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And so that is the trick of and you don't even realize these things until either maybe something happens that you're like, you just notice it or you're looking for it.
Yeah.
So exact same in websites. I would think, and I don't design them, but I go to them. I use them, and I know which ones I like and which ones I don't. And so that's how I kind of felt like I became more interested in retail environment, is like, well, I shop.
Exactly.
And these are the things I notice that tick me off, and these are the things I notice that I either don't notice them or I take them for granted, or just listen to people. I mean, as soon as everybody tells you, I hate having to check myself out, I hate kiosks, everybody does.
Exactly.
I mean, really, honestly, I'm probably wrong. I say that. There's probably 20 people who raise their hand and go, I love a kiosk. It means I don't have to talk to somebody. And but then you learn something and you're like, oh, okay. Well, then what's the happy medium? Obviously, there's something in the middle there that works for everybody then.
Exactly.
So
have a self-checkout, but have at least, your 2 Walmart workers at a register. And
have, anything, everything, where it's like, we just want to make this experience like seamless enough and pleasant enough that you're more than happy to return.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So website too.
Yeah. Oh, apps. And I mean, you look at the difference between TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and they all have their own unique personality that they've created over years of design and experience.
Yeah, there's an aesthetic, and what's funny is you can learn about one of them through the other one.
Exactly.
You can learn about the successes and the failures of each one through those things themselves.
Yeah.
Like the use of Instagram will tell you what makes TikTok better or worse, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, and they compete with each other, but they all help each other out. It's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah, it is.
But that's social media game for you. But so e-commerce, have you thought about doing that, or?
I do a little bit, and I am hoping to do some more in the near future.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think, kind of a next step, mainly just to supplement when maybe times are a little leaner, or just being able to explore or expand into a market that's bigger than just what I'm able to provide for here. And it'll also kind of help me branch out into new markets, new products, and kind of a new fan base and a new customer base that I just don't have access to here.
Sure.
But I do recognize it's just it's a world that I've only dipped into enough to know that I would need a whole extra person, like a whole extra me, to be able
Yes.
to do both.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's definitely something that I'm interested in, and I know
Okay.
just enough to be dangerous. So I
Yeah.
don't want to be at that. I want to be beyond that stage
Yeah.
to
yeah.
really go into it. So
It's
if
a
I'm just
beast.
if I know just enough to be dangerous, I can get myself into trouble. So let me go beyond that learning stage
Sure,
of like,
sure.
okay, I'm comfortable enough now to maybe do this product line in kind of a forward facing digital space,
Mm-hmm.
but not like the entire product line yet. And I know some stores personally but they were prepared. They're bigger
Sure.
stores in bigger markets with a kind of a bigger employee base too, and a lot of them did it during the pandemic. So obviously they kind of had the time to
Mm-hmm.
create the designs, go over the hurdles,
Yep.
fix all the hiccups and the things that weren't working,
Yep.
because a lot of them were either closed or they were operating off of minimum hours or minimum accessibility to their customer base.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of not in that same environment at the time, and I mean, we got people coming in the door, and which is great. We're blessed. So we got people coming in the door all the time, every day, and
Right.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. But if I were to look at it like a problem, it's a good problem to have. But
Yep.
it doesn't allow me kind of the time to now spend to go into that next phase.
Right. I
But
gotcha.
but it's enough in my mind that it's definitely, knowing myself, it's definitely something that I'm working towards.
Okay. Well, and I have a thought about, okay, if you do dive into that market though, would that then cannibalize your physical storefront business?
I wouldn't want it to, and
Yeah.
that would be that's part of that, exploring it just enough to know where I think it would work for both, and that's either both exploring how other stores have been able to do both.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want it to cannibalize, because just like there are stores that do conventions, right? They travel for conventions, and that's a really big market model for them. But just talking about their inventory and their staff, sometimes their convention staff is not their store staff, and their convention stock is not their store stock.
Right.
So I would really have to examine, and that's part of that, getting to that point of realizing that I would have my online market and my store, and
Yeah.
the two would not mix very often, except for by design. Like,
Sure,
okay,
right.
we've designed where after things are on the shelf for a certain amount of time, now they get now they float into a system where they're accessible in both until they become exclusive to one or the other.
Right.
But we're talking thousands of SKUs, tens of thousands of SKUs.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of like product flow to be like micromanaging in my head.
Yeah.
But I feel that I can eventually get the flow down
Yeah.
to a workable model.
Man, that'd be cool whenever you can, because you think about it and it's like, well, technically, direct editions were the early stages of that, because that
Yeah,
was
very much so.
people just getting it direct from the company and not even going through a local comic shop or anything
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah, and we hear and read from so many people that don't, they say they don't have a shop in their market, or they don't have one that's accessible to them. Because think about somewhere like Lubbock, where, you can reach me no matter what part of the city you live in. You can reach me in 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
Lubbock.
it's pretty general, just depending upon traffic that day or whatever
Yeah.
you're doing. But yeah, they're not wrong. If you live in a Dallas-Fort Worth market or a Houston market, or places where traffic is just crazy or insane, you may say, I've got 3 shops I know in my vicinity, but to go to them and then back home on a given, pick a day, is going to take me 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So a lot of them would prefer mail order
Yeah.
or have it come to their home. But then what differentiates me from other like digital salespeople? What differentiates using me from somebody else? Well, then I have to think of what those pros and cons are, and
Yeah.
what can I offer? Can I offer that to them? Price is not always the fighting point. It is a fighting point. I know it's there, but it's not always the exclusive fighting point.
Yeah.
What can I offer that makes it an advantage or a preference to use me instead?
Oh yeah.
And that becomes part of that personal flair thing
Yeah.
of like, You know, maybe being able to add a personal touch in a mail order digital system is, I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah.
I think that you can add little flares and extras to make it where when they receive a package from you, they're excited to receive a package from you, and it's not just because they got the book that they ordered or the comics that they ordered. They got it from you. There's something there.
Yes.
And it
exactly.
it can be whatever type of insert, whatever type of communication that you make back and forth with them, even if it's automated in some way, shape, or form, but just kind of the experience of, well, I really enjoyed shopping there because when I did have a complaint or when I did have a problem or there was a hiccup or something did happen, they manage it with professionalism and accuracy and took care of it and, you know, made right by the whole interaction. And I have done enough online business to know that there is a nuance between doing the online business and the face-to-face business, and there is a combo that works somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And there are the times that you have to give up some of the battles that you can tell are battles that are not your battles. That's it's their battle. They created this, and so you're going to have to. And then there are some that you're like, no, I can't. If I let this battle go, then this is going to snowball into something even worse.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me just go ahead and cut this off here. Firing customers is a real thing. It's not something I encourage. It's not something that I've ever really done a lot of. But yes, sometimes, again, learning from them, sometimes you're not always a perfect fit.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and it's that brand loyalty that, you know, you can buy from a store or you can buy from the store, you know, and creating the environment where you create a personality within your business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if they can feel it on that side, even at a distance,
yes,
that's a trick. Yeah. I'm not saying I know how to do it, but I think it exists.
Yeah, it grows, and part of that is, as we were talking, the online, you know, presence. Sometimes you can use that as a way to not just say I sell comics, but, you know, why do I sell comics?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Put a little bit of the personal in it.
Yeah. And I feel like people relate to that a little better, and it just attracts, you know. Well, and even in the other sense, being in the industry of marketing, I have definitely recognized that convenience seems to trump price a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. Convenience is a big deal. I mean, obviously, people will pay a lot extra for some things to be delivered that they shouldn't.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're just talking about things like, not to use any brand names, but any type of delivery systems.
Yes.
To your doorstep, and it's like, you look at somewhere like here, and you're like, you were literally 5 minutes away from that place.
Yeah, you could have easily driven.
Absolutely could have taken care of that yourself. Convenience will very often. It's like, yeah, I know it was double the price, but man, I didn't have to leave my desk.
Exactly.
I could continue to do my work. I didn't have to talk to anybody. It was right at my door.
Yep.
No, I get that. I mean, I even see that in this world.
Yeah.
Where sometimes people would be more at ease if it just showed up at their door, and
yep, absolutely.
But offering them that is the trick.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't want to eat up all your time, so
no, you're good.
We'll cap it off there. I appreciate you talking
to me. Cool. Yeah, anytime.
It was a blast.
Yeah, thank you.